This is Trekland HQ, and we are live. Who won Comic Con? Star Trek, episode 317 of Trekland Tuesdays Live. Boom. With me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming right at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 by way of a Trekland Trek or two. Hey, for some sanity, clarity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek, welcome back for another Tuesday. Trekland HQ and everything here in Trekland is also the home of Trekland Treks, where I hope sometime when you get to Los Angeles, you can take a day on your business or personal trip and have set up your own customized away mission with me as your guide. Any of the 50 plus location sites from all the eras of Star Trek that aren't Toronto. You can be your own customized visitor. Check it out. And check out this week's topic as everybody starts to dribble into the chat. That's awesome. I'm just going to fix this so that we are a little easier to read. Yay. It's good to see everybody for another Tuesday. Yes, do I look like I've lost some weight, or I'm a little tanner or something? Was just down at San Diego Comic-Con. Everybody, we're going to talk about this for just a little bit. I'm going to talk about it. I want to encourage everybody, for one thing, if you're a TTLer, you know what to do. Jump in the chat, get your hellos and howdy doos. How hot is the summer where you are? Hopefully, not too much climate in rebellion is happening near you, but let us know. Everybody get your howdy doos out of the way. And if you are new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, here's what happens. I'm going to talk about a little soapbox here for a few minutes. Then I will we'll take a very micro short break. I'll look at the parrot analytics and other ways of measuring current TV, including, of course, Star Trek. And then we'll dive into the chat, then full bore. But you, please feel free to jump in right now and introduce yourself. And if you are new, yes, very definitely, let us know who you are, where you're coming from in the world, because right now at this time of day, we do Tuesdays Live from day one back in 2017 so that we can take advantage of the global audience that's out there for Trek and this connection. We were doing this before the pandemic, by golly, and I was doing Portal 47 a year earlier than that, 2 years actually. So we've been at this global Star Trek connection platform thing, and again, spreading some sanity, clarity, and the big picture in things Star Trek. And boy, is it a summer when we need some clarity and sanity. We've got double strikes now going on. Remember, some of you remember the week or two before the strike deadline when no one was talking about it? And I said, I feel guilty for not having talked about the strike until we got right up to the eve of the issues, because I was trying to transfer the murmuring here around Los Angeles that was going on as everybody saw this train coming down the track, but it was like the train without the lights on until everyone got smacked in the tunnel in the dark. That's the way it must have felt to the outside world on 2 or 3 days' notice. Anyway, as someone who was there at the writer's strike in 07 and 08 and watched all this happen, I was trying to start giving the world a share. And we had Bill Wilkoff here on an anniversary show from the lines, just the first couple of days of the strike, and a lot of interaction since then. Now the actors are on strike. And the looming question, talking about the train coming down the track, and I've talked about the last couple of weeks, but in short, what was going to be the impact on Comic-Con San Diego, the granddaddy of them all, big Comic-Con, other interests that became a Hollywood thing because of the proximity to LA, and it became a weekend getaway to go and promote all the new hot movies and TV shows. And that was going to go away, obviously, with the strike this year. The actors far more so than the writers, although the writers being very sensitive to not looking like they're giving a free hand to any of the studios that they're striking against. The MPT, not everybody, the independent producers. And, well, we'll talk about this too, just so you know the big picture, everything, clarity and sanity. Some of these waivers that you've been hearing about and saying, oh, why are they getting exceptions? There's been misinformation, misreporting there. Those are not waivers like an exception. Those are waivers given because the producer is an independent that agreed to the SAG and WGA terms. When you heard these one-off actors who were organizing their own little shingles of a production company, there was one series that was some kind of a Christian. I know you're thinking, what? Their company agreed to the terms. These other independent companies, these small projects, agreed to the terms, I think, in the July 12th actors' demands, the writers' demands. In other words, they're clear, they're legit. They have been given permission to go. They haven't been given an exception, which is leading to all the memes about if these little boys and girls companies can agree to the current terms, why can't the big boys? That's the spin that's being avoided. Anyway, we all wondered what would be the impact on, even as San Diego Comic-Con veterans, comics fans, some of them my friends, were totally happy to see the frou-frou go away. There were still hotel rooms hard to come by. The economy of San Diego is not going to tank in the next year, much less over the weekend. It was a little easier to get into some restaurants, but that depended on what time of day it was. But these are the questions in mind as we got down. The other question being that so many of the studios, because of the strikes, especially with the faces of the actors, again, the writers going, hey guys, remember us? No, especially with the actors gone, why, of everybody from Netflix on down, Warner Brothers, Hulu, Paramount Plus, still opted to go ahead with their Hall H for Star Trek? Now, I've got to be among those who somewhere on the spectrum of wondering curiously what they were going to do to wondering humorously what they were going to do. And then had the word in advance, a few days in advance, they were going to show those old scientists, the long-awaited crossover animation that not only did they show it early for the crowd in Hall H, but they released it that night on the service, along with the Ready Room with Will, background piece for it. And again, all these pieces are very careful to say that since they were the insiders, they sat everyone down for interviews long before the strike, so that's not an issue as far as that goes. There are all kinds of questions, and we talked about this last week, because right around the corner in 2 weeks, for us, even more so than Comic-Con, which is the big table and making sure you have a seat there and being seen, then we dive onto our own family reunion, whether you're there in person or you're experiencing it vicariously online, on the webs, occasionally some live streams. I'll try to add to some of those. But it's our family reunion for just Star Trek alone. And how is the strike going to affect this? And all the confusion about cosplay and panels and who could appear and what you could talk about. And a lot of that's been mostly clarified. And it's a different vibe for both conventions, both events that are right here on our radar right now. Hall H, the big production place for all the productions, was basically empty, and they did not try to fill it. It sat with crickets. More people got into Hall H when they wanted to, including the Star Trek. Hall H was always full, but half the time for a Star Trek event, you had it half full for the people who were there all day waiting for their event slice 3 or 4 or 5 hours later. But you knew this Hall H was full of Trek. That 5,000, 6,000 people. It's a different vibe that Vegas will be, because Vegas is all Trek-centric, and it's very actor-centric. And, of course, you've got your one-to-one interactions, but there are still the panels, and they kind of feel obligatory. And you know what? It's a good thing that Paramount delicensed STLV, that they delicensed creation for this, even though the follow-on licensee has since walked away from the license. The only licensed event that's out there now, including the departure of Destination Star Trek, losing its license, the only thing licensed now is the cruise. So the marketing and promotional and all our friends that work in promoting the shows, and that team has expanded greatly. That's one good thing. And they're rapidly learning the fan base and the property. That's always helpful. But they have no say over Vegas. If STLV had still been a licensed show, chances are it would have shut down or turned into some kind of a one-day mini thing. That's kind of a silver lining here going on. But still, people are curious about what that looks like, what that's going to look like. And that question that we're 10 days away, things are still being settled and schedules settled and all that. But what I can talk about is what the experience was like at Comic-Con. So for Star Trek, there was going to be the Hall H presentation, which would have had actors and people associated with the three current, with Strange New and Lower Decks, and yeah, Discovery getting glorified for its final season, even though it's technically been let go. But they're going to glorify and promote the hell out of that fifth season as the finale and pay homage to the groundbreaking status, yes, and all the bruises and the warts and everything all that Discovery pioneered, coming back and being the first Trek to stream in this crazy modern age. So none of that happened, obviously. They showed the episode, made some announcements. My friend Scott Nance emceed the poor thing all by his lonesome, made the announcements, had the promotional trailers back up. So we got the basic news out, right? September 7th is going to be the Lower Decks premiere with 2 episodes. This is all, you've heard this. They've had the trailer out for Discovery. They've got the trailer out for all of this. They showed those old scientists the much vaunted visit to Toontown for Strange New Worlds, or Toontown visits us, although it goes both ways. And then the news of Subspace Rhapsody, which is a perfect name for a musical Star Trek, 2 down the line with a very ordinary, very mundane, very exciting, not animation, not musical, but a regular, a plain old D episode of Strange New Worlds featuring Klingon ambassador, and it looks like some post-traumatic stress. Okay, this is all news you can get anywhere. What I wanted to share with you today is beyond that. And I just started, as the weekend wore on, look, I went down with a lighter footprint. I think I mentioned this. I only did one. They have what they call Autograph Alley, where you can get a table for 4 hours twice in the week. I only did one day this time. I went very light, didn't take the banner down, went very light. I had a panel, which went through several iterations. I wound up with the 2 amazing art directors, Liz Kloskowski and Kit Sherlin, who were among those splitting up sets. Liz had the under Dave Blass, production designer, working with both of them, but they split the sets up among set designers. And Liz is the one who had the Titan sets, and of course the Enterprise D bridge and the Helios 12, who we've had on Portal 47. Kit, who I'm going to get after this live exchange, it was his first convention ever. Liz had talked to fans before virtually with me and others. She'd just been up with Dave at Star Trek Tours and talked to a small, like 200 people in a loosey-goosey environment. She'd never been to big time San Diego Comic-Con and sat in a room with 420 seats. And we know because our panel was, well, it's not sold out. There's no tickets, but we were SRO. They turned maybe 20 people away at the end, and who knows how many walked. So it was an awesome experience for the fans. And for those 2, the pictures are up. It was a great time. But that was Sunday, and there was lots going on before that, lots of time to observe. The Hall H extravaganza, as such, was at 1 o'clock on Saturday. So we got down Sunday evening for preview night, and I'm looking around. A lot of just things started happening here. I personally was making a big move, as I noticed in the program, lots of Star Trek people there. Now, I'm not talking about Star Trek panels. I'm talking about, so Neville Page has a book coming out of his work. Titan Books was there to promote it. He had a solo panel with the support team on Saturday. Yay, that was a thing. A lot of people, Noga Landau, who is the showrunner for Starfleet Academy, who was at Strike Day that I didn't get to meet. I got to meet after the panel of a lot of showrunners. It was a TV 101 for people wanting to know what showrunning was like when you step up from a writer and then you showrun, and how you staff a room. Now, look, these are all writers who are on strike right now. The WGA is not being quite, they obviously don't want to support the people they're striking against right now. That would be giving away the milk of the cow, or both. The actors are the ones who are very, very face conscious and are very, very on top of this. The writers are a little less reticent about not talking about their projects. They don't want to go, they don't want anything to benefit the studios. If you're a fan, if you're a one-off journalist, if you're somebody doing archival interviewing for the future, it's not so touchy, and yet it is with a lot of them. But it's not so clear-cut, as none of the actors want to be seen as doing anything, aside from it being their strike rules. And yeah, we're interpreting all this about cosplay, and there's loopholes. Basically, if the person they would work for is somebody they're striking against. And if they're not, it's basically that includes animation studios if they're not tied into a big one, game companies. There's a lot of work they can do overseas as well, as long as none of the money involved gets back to someone they're striking, the MTPTP, the motion picture group, because independent producers are not part of that group. Producers overseas aren't part of that group. And they are not, especially the writers, are not working. They're very much letting the other foreign countries know that not, as was exposed once, South Korean writers trying to be hired for a Hollywood project. No, no, no. Lots of solidarity among the sister guilds and unions for actors and writers and other crews, etc., around the world. So no scabs coming across the ponds to help out. But here in the now, a lot of writers talking about their works. There was a panel that my friends Drea and Brian, their Psychology of series that they do, that I was a guest on in time past. How I Met Dr. Ali was through Dr. Drea Lettermandi and Brian that works for Shout Factory. They had originally had a panel with Terry Metalis and Todd Stashwick, a Picard panel for Saturday evening at 7. Well, Todd bowed out very early on because of the strike, early on into the strike, 10 days ago, 10 days prior, and had Chris Monfett and Matt Kimura, who were also on the writing staff, joined Terry, who had also worked with him back on 12 Monkeys. So they lost Todd. They got 2 writers. It was still going to be a Picard panel by striking writers. But none of this was Comic-Con. It's not a studio event. Terry wound up having to bow out because, well, a very big meeting, not about Star Trek. He had a good business meeting to go to, a meeting, not a public event, not promoting. And the 2 guys, so Chris and Matt, held that on their own. But it was still a Picard panel, happened Saturday night. It still was at 7 p.m. on Saturday. Party time's happening. People are out drinking. But it still had 3/4 of its room there. So what I'm getting to here is, number one, Star Trek was being represented on a lot of the panels. Different panels of subject matter where you had representatives from a lot of different series or different shows. And there was a Star Trek person in that mix, aside from the Star Trek panels. So that was happening. And it was great to see so many Star Trek folks be a part of that. On top of that. So that's why I didn't get to the animated 50th anniversary panel. I was seeing a couple of Star Trek people that I wanted to say hello to again at a side panel. Which brings up the whole question. Twice this weekend, I wanted to see Star Trek things that conflicted. There was the higher profile Star Trek panel and Star Trek people on a panel that I also wanted to see them. I'd either met them or I wanted to see them again or hear them talk for the first time. And I would choose the first timers over the big event because figuring the big event is going to be covered. It's going to be out there. I wasn't here to cover. I wasn't being journalist. So I wasn't working for anybody covering anything and having to do. And I've done that before. And that's a big deal. But that's why I missed out on some of the free pins and all that. So I'll work my ways behind the scenes and come away with some of the goodies and the posters and all that. But what it let me do was realize how Star Trek is permeating this. And what it reminded me of is, look, I'm not a comics guy. I have talked about this before. I think 2006 was the first time I went to Comic-Con. After Enterprise was down, the Berman era was done. Maybe the JJ movie was announced, but for all intents and purposes, intents and purposes, nothing intensive about it. Star Trek, as we knew it, was dead for a while. It was just going to be that way. It was stupid. There was much more money to be made if they just had their heads on straight. But between the bean counters and the mundane suits in the world of 2005 and 2006, amid the Paramount divorce and all that chaos, the Viacom divorce, wasn't going to be fresh Star Trek for a while. And my comics friends dragged me or persuaded me to come down. And I saw everything but Star Trek. Within a couple of years, I took advantage. I took some books down and we signed at the little 4-hour table things. No big deal. I was in the program grid. That was nice if anybody wanted to see me. 2 or 3 years later, I submitted a panel in the way that's now familiar to people. And the first year or two, just some of my solo Trekland content panels talking about, behind the scenes stuff. And at the time it was the fallow time, so we're all still navel gazing back at Enterprise, DS9, Voyager, TNG, the original series, anniversaries or a prompt, whatever. And what dawned on me was I never saw anybody wearing Star Trek. It was a Comic-Con. You didn't expect it. That's why you have Vegas. You get to go see your peeps in 2 weeks. But for right now, you're kind of trying to hold the flag. You're trying to stake a little bit of a ground. If I saw anybody wearing anything, a uniform, a T-shirt, a vague T-shirt, if somebody was vague shirting, I would get a picture. The first 2 or 3 or 4 years I went, I would get 4 or 5 shots of cosplay for the whole 4 days. There were the years when I decided, looking at the catalog, that the program guide, that my little dinky Star Trek panel, a couple of years we had podcasters in, were the only Trek panels in the whole campus. Now, that all started to change. The years of promoting the movies were big years, but those tended to be big one-off movie promotions. Not a lot of stickum for small panels, fan or pro. And finally, that began to change with the coming of the 50th, with the studio getting involved the year Spock was on a cover. I've talked about some of the earliest TTLs, much less my blogs. Star Trek finally started to come out from the fallow fields. 2015, 2016 was the big 50th, Spock on the cover, and the preview panel that Brian Fuller hosted with Shatner and Jerry Ryan and Brent Spiner, I believe. Go down the line, people from every era to talk about Star Trek in general, with a little bit of talk by then, and a couple of features, the infamous features of the too soon visual effects for Discovery, and we were often running on the Discovery controversies of the week. But that was 2016. And from then on, there's been a slow build with the studio staffing up crews to come back and have a footprint. So thankfully, no longer are my little panels the only Star Trek at Comic-Con San Diego. Again, all about having a chair alongside the other big boys, the other big franchises, the way we've talked about it lately. But look, here's just some things I noticed. Yeah, so many panels or people repping, even from Discovery and Picard, which are dead shows, although Discovery has to be promoted. But people, professionals on panels, fan panels, seeing friends have more Star Trek fan panels in there. And every time, whether it was professionals or fans, I was not in the room, but I saw this happen enough. Every time, whoever was there, if they were IATSE, like art guilds, set dressers and set decorators and production designers, prop folk, at one panel I attended, Liz's other panel for beginning indie filmmakers and talking, it was a how-to. Whatever the level of professional or fan panel that I saw or heard about later, always a statement in support of the strikers, the actors and writers. And a reminder that 2 years ago, 2021, IATSE came this close to presaging these strikes with all the issues going on. The short seasons, the overwork, the no transparency, and even saying what they are going to pay you, much less what they are paying you. All of that, and AI looming over even not as big as it is now, but all of that, they came a hair's breadth only because of the structure of the way the voting went. They actually had a strike vote 51-49, but it was kind of like the electoral college of the thing. They narrowly averted a strike then. So yeah, it's been a paradigm sea change. These issues affect everybody. That's why all of Hollywood, the Teamsters, everybody, people, the IBE, Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and municipal workers and teachers, they're all in support of this because it's not just Hollywood people. It's symptomatic of what's gone on that needs to change the last 40 years. That said, every panel that mentioned that would get applaud. The fandom is so in support of it. That's why all the talk about supporting and not so. Some people are so eager and zealous to show their support that they may be, I don't want to say harming themselves, because it's all fandom and it's all, it's all froth at the end of the day. It's what gets you through your sane streak when you've come home from work at the end of the day. Someone was just mentioned, Roddenberry was talking about this last night on Mission Log. He's going to suspend some of the Roddenberry podcast activities in light of that, if they interface in things that are on the table. That's all kind of being decided right now. But point being, there are barometers apart from the strikes, apart from what any studio or company spent money on. There's grassroots fandom, and I started seeing the results of 2 years, one solid year, most of a second year, even in the craziness of pandemic and everybody zooming to stay together and stay sane and get the word out. Produce shows, talk about them when they air, keep our sanity. Something about the bonding effect and the Zoom effect, like we'd been virtual Zooming, I've been since 2015, but for the world to catch up and see it, and now everybody's on the same page. No one sits around and wonders how does this streaming thing work? That's very 2017. We're there now. Now we're into the economics and the finances of all of it, but we're there now. And how fandom survived the pandemic and the silver linings of that. And then to come out and have a full year of Trek last year. I think we're starting to see the dividends of that. I'm just saying, those years when I would take maybe 4 or 5 shots of anybody remotely in a Star Trek get up over the whole 4 days and a night. Folks, I'm here to tell you, at least one out of every 20 people I saw, and we're talking 150,000 people, was in some kind of a Star Trek. When we went to eat on Sunday afternoon, we went into the Union, not the student union. There's in Gaslamp called the Union, and I looked, and there was a table with one of the 3 or 4 people, Star Trek uniform on. These 3 or 4 people, Star Trek uniform on. These 3 or 4 people, Star Trek uniform on. These 3 or 4 people, Star Trek t-shirt. It really started to add up. And the fact that our panel on Sunday at 1 of the art directors, and Kit and Liz are so funny. They're like, why did you set us up a signing time afterwards? No one's going to want our autograph. And I said, people half the time, they just want to come talk. And you always have the crowd at Comic-Cons. You have the crowd outside the room. You have to vacate for the next panel to come in. And if you have hangers on, they want to come out and sit in the corridor and talk. Sometimes that lasts 10 minutes. Sometimes it lasts 30 minutes. And if it goes on long enough, somebody will say, well, let's all go to so-and-so and sit down and have a drink, and or we'll buy you guys drinks or whatever, depending on schedules. I said, let's get you in the grid and have you have a legit signing space. Give it 15 minutes. We walk down and there you are. Well, funny story. Not only did we have 420 people crammed in, we had the people hanging on afterwards. We went down. I had braced both of them. It was their first Comic-Con, Kit especially, and went from nervous to become a pro by the end. You instantly get it. It's like watching an actor at their first con get out on stage. What am I going to talk about? I have nothing prepared. Heard somebody say one time, it's the only telling an actor getting ready for their first Star Trek convention from the cast, saying it's the only time in your life you're in entertainment and the audience loves you before you even open your mouth. It's very settling for nervous actors who are not understanding how this whole thing works on that end. And then, of course, they're all old pros after that. But no, we had got down, and the long, the Disneyland type queue, the stalls winding back and forth. We're totally empty. 3 or 4 people hit them up, had them sign their program books. They didn't have anything to sign. They're both saying, I have nothing to sign. I got no headshots. Haha. We're just art directors. Art directors that worked on the most fabulous season, at least on public barometers ever, in that D bridge. Even Kit did the Borg corridors, the District 6 with all the Bajoran and Ferengi and Cardassian callouts, and all of that was in his resume. We sat and looked at the empty stalls in front of us, and I said, well, guys, I'm sorry. This is what I thought might happen, but hey, I just thought you were entitled to have a sit down. And 5 minutes later, we had a guy in a Picard jacket ask if he could come have us sign something. And I thought he was standing with the next line over. And after he walked over, somebody behind him said, can I get something signed too? And I'm like, well, this is funny. I had totally braced them we were making fun of the empty line. And I'm just like, but you had the experience, kids. No. What we thought was an empty set of stalls, and we walked down, actually began with the first one with people in it. There were at least 40 or 50 people lined up who were waiting on us to get our shit together and start signing. And we didn't know they were there until these two said, "Can we sign something?" We were taking pictures of the anyway. It was amazing. I was gobsmacked. If there was something that gobsmacked me all weekend, actually a couple things did, but that was the biggest. And I was so happy for them. We had people who weren't even at the panel. They came down when they couldn't get in the panel, or they just found Star Trek in the, which is the point of it all, found Star Trek in the grid. They were there on Sunday. Not much happening on Sunday for Star Trek, but our panel. And they came over at least to get something signed. One person joined Portal 47 in the line. I was gobsmacked. But this is what I mean as a barometer. I'm seeing more people repping Star Trek, seeing more panels. And then on top of that, I did not get over to the installations. I know that's sacrilege. I didn't get over to the lodge, which was all the Paramount Plus things. I didn't, I didn't get over to the lodge. I didn't get over to the Energize Lounge, but I talked to Tony at their booth. I had a free coupon for a free coffee at the Energize Lounge, and I didn't make it over. Boo on me. I lost Thursday to work. Should have gone Thursday. It's the easiest day. But no. I mean, I was there. I got my cred. There's my pro badge. Okay, yay. Here's my, my panel placard. Okay, yay. Yes, Kit and Liz got away with theirs too. The hotel that we were in, I don't know if this is across all of San Diego. Paramount Plus was a big sponsor this year. Our hotel room key was a Paramount Plus Showtime sponsor. So the studio had put a lot of money in. They weren't having to fly actors or drive actors down. I mean, that was a savings. Nobody had to come down from Toronto or New York. So I guess they saved some bucks there. But then you go on the floor, you see the cosplay. So apparently, when I have to think what it was, there was a company, Pop Galaxy. Apparently some company is offering women's and men's, I guess, unisex, pull down next generation type pullover bits. But instead of all the regular colors, they were offering it in purple and pink. You could get a pink with, the black accent. I saw at least 3 of those over the weekend. What, gang, this is the weekend of Barbie and Oppenheimer. Or Wednesday, I said, oh, it's a Boppenheimer weekend. Apparently that, for me and other people, had the same idea. I mean, a shout out to the several women I saw wearing the pink. I was like, what great branding. I just was wondering why we don't have Barbie Trek among all the hashtags. I've tried. Feel free to try to pick it up. It's up to you. But no, it's... come on, gang. Can I please get back here? It's one of those things. I put a few Instagrammies up. There was a wonderful couple dressed as Pike and Una that were standing in line that I've got on my Instagram. And they were in line to go sit in the Pike chair for a photo op in the video bit that you saw a lot of people posting. There was always a line around that. I kidded with them and I said, what's going on here where the captain can't sit in his own chair? Are they having budget cuts at Starfleet and they're renting it out for extra credits? What's going on? And we had a good time. It's a real Saturday after the Hall H that I was not in. I was just watching all the news alerts come on my phone, getting all the press releases for everything everybody was being told in the hall, knowing that I was going to watch These Old Scientists on my screener that I hadn't had time to watch because it came on Tuesday night when we were busy packing for Comic-Con. When have I had time to sit and watch it in a decent shape? I'm not going to watch it on my phone the first time. As we're standing there, knowing that the Hall H is about to let out or is letting out, the line, which always had 20, 30 people in it, suddenly starts growing. This is mid-Saturday afternoon. Eventually, the people I'm talking to, we're all squished up against the wall behind the Paramount booth, right in the middle, of the famous exhibit floor there. It's thickening up, and I start seeing people. It's the flood of people. They're all Star Trek. And I hear people murmuring. They said, come over and get a poster. They said, come over. Well, they were giving away the Subspace Rhapsody poster and said, go back. They didn't do it at the door leaving the hall. They didn't do it in the fulfillment rooms. They a lot of times will give you a ticket and you go to some room and you get the thing from, all the franchises, studios, companies would do that to give away their free stuff rather than do it in the room. But this time they told people to go back to because they wanted people to go through the experience of the little video, getting the photo op and all of that, being interviewed for your comments. I'm sure promotion's going to do a big organic fans why we love Star Trek reel. So be watching for that. But within the span of about 10, 15, 20 minutes, this thing became so bloated with people, with Star Trek fans, it was getting comical. And then I saw people getting a little worried, and some of the booth people and some of the hired help security folks were trying to clear aisles. And before you knew it, I heard whistles, and the actual firemen, firefighters, fire marshals were there to clear the aisle, because apparently we had maybe 500 people, which is not a good thing to have. No one was in danger. You could have had, if somebody had tripped and fallen, it would have been hard, all that. All the reasons that you're supposed to have fire lanes clear. But I kept thinking, oh my God, Star Trek is popular enough to have fire marshals come clear the hordes. It's the 70s again. I tweeted that. I've still got the video. I want to put it up somehow. I hadn't had time to. But I'm thinking, what have we come to? And then it dawned on me, the upshot of this whole weekend. Oh, and my friend Helen Collins, she went as Badgie, good and bad Badgie. She won the entire comedy division side of the masquerade, the Comic-Con San Diego big masquerade, big event show. Gave up hours of her time to do it. A Star Trek character won one of the two divisions of the San Diego Comic-Con masquerade. I'm just piling these on the amount of markers there are for Star Trek. So congrats, Helen. I've told her already, but the people, the panels, the organic, the pink uniforms, which made perfectly. So yay. The fire marshal meltdown, which again was nobody's fault. It kind of took everybody by surprise. It was a good, thank goodness nothing happened, or it could have been a bad surprise, but it was a good surprise. Some of the events people from the studio I saw and told them that, look how popular Star Trek is. It's the 70s again. They were only half smiling. They had things to deal with. But this is what I'm saying, kids. So you wonder, my theme for this week, I think, even though I kind of raised an eyebrow, I did my Vulcan reaction. But when Paramount Plus went ahead and did a Hall H, even, obviously observing all their members wouldn't have let them. But even with the strike protocols and knowing you had nothing really human to put up there, I'm really thinking that the strike's loss, the other studios' loss, or the loss of all the other studios, was Star Trek's gain. And it wasn't just because of that. Now, look, some of these seeds were in motion. A year of Star Trek last year. I just think we're actually seeing Star Trek along with missteps everywhere. DC Universe continues to misstep. Is the Marvel superhero universe, is the Marvel Universe, the MCU, is it finally running out of steam? Is it losing its sliced bread status in the world? Star Wars is doing its shows, and there's more Star Wars hourage. They'll never catch up to Star Trek still. Not that it's a contest, but they won't with these little short seasons. Star Wars is not exactly burning the war. There's no real mega franchise right now. And it's almost like they're all taking a breather for whatever reason. And here comes little Star Trek powering on. Yeah, strikes are happening right now. And yeah, we're all pissed about Prodigy. Seeing Prodigy. A couple of people I know were cosplaying, but in service to the strikers, they only cosplayed anime, which was awesome. So, you do you, everybody. Whatever you're feeling like doing to support this, it'll be supportive. Just contributing to some of the community fund that's out there for not just the writers and the actors on strike, and the water and the heat and the ice cream and the cold drinks, but also to the entire Hollywood community that is, as callously as one of the producers said about everybody will be losing their homes by October. They'll be kicked out of their apartments and losing their mortgages. That's the cynical end of it. But yeah, the supporting the charities and the funds in the industry and from without that are supporting all those folks, because there's a lot of little people who just work on staffs and crews who are having a hard, rough time now with everything shut down, and looking for some of those exceptions to the rules that are fine. They're not shady. They're totally fine to go do. Animation, gaming, commercials, those kinds of things. Industrial films, narrated films, documentaries that are independent movies and TV, pilots that are independently produced for now. All of that is still trying to happen and moving along. In fact, I know some Star Trek actors were in San Diego to pursue some of that, not to appear to promote their Star Trek, but to pursue some of that. You getting a picture here? Strike or no strike, it felt like Star Trek was on a surge. By having the strikes and the absence of everybody else, you lost all that spotlight attention competition. Not that there was a lot to spotlight on stage, although, Scott Mantz is awesome. But he wasn't as excited as Scott can be. He was not going to bring back the whole franchise by himself. That 1 hour did. Those old scientists did. And I'm curious to watch and see if we have any tickers to see how much, because the animateds unfairly, both Prodigy and Lower Decks, their numbers, however you measure it, are nowhere near what Picard and Strange New Worlds and even Discovery, their numbers are nowhere near that. How much of a bump Lower Decks is going to get. And by streaming, you should see it immediately. We don't have to wait for the next season, but the next season's coming soon. It'll be interesting to see if there is a strange new bump for Lower Decks coming out of this, because they all got their share of attention. I have a second opinion. Yes, coming as soon as we can get it edited. My thoughts on this. Then we turn around and do the ordinary show with the Klingon, and then we have Subspace Rhapsody, which is dropping the Thursday of Vegas next week. I've seen memes talking about live streamers and podcasters and bloggers going bonkers right now with all of this dropping so fast. And you know what? Soon enough, we'll be back in a fallow time. It's 2 weeks, and then we'll have 2 weeks here. And then Lower Decks will start up with 2, so that'll only be 9 weeks. 2 will be in the first week, unless there's some shenanigans on the back end as well. And by early November, we will be out of Fresh Trek until the horizon. We'll see. But for right now, Vegas Trek is one thing, and it's its own critter, and it's the family reunion. But when you use Comic-Con San Diego as a barometer of, as I used to say, if Star Trek is getting a table at the big kids table, a seat, and are they in a high chair, or did they get a grown-up chair at the big kids table? They not only had I think they were carving the turkey this year. Now, maybe that's overstating it a little bit. Lots more to see. But if nothing else, the atmosphere was open, the doors were open, and Star Trek came right on in. And you know what? It all didn't trickle down from the studios. There was so much grassroots love for so much Star Trek. In the subtlest of ways. People not on a payroll, people just showing their stuff. And if that's the mood and the place where Star Trek is right now, strike or no strike, then imagine what's going to happen when, these other franchises right now that are struggling to find their way. We can have a Barbie, we can have an Oppenheimer, we can have whatever little hit movie comes along. But if people really are tiring of the big franchise, mega franchises, especially if they're superheroes, and none of them ever have uniforms that match, okay, unless they're the Fantastic Four. But if nobody has, anything outside of their pajama bottoms, and Star Trek can find its way back, that would just be awesome. And again, I'm not into this. I'm not waging bets. I'm not keeping score. I just go back to how Star Trek deserves for as much of the world to know about it as possible. And they haven't had that ability the last 20 years, unless they had a good friend who was dragging them kicking and screaming into everything Star Trek. And I would hear anecdotally from folks who were the active person, and their plus one wasn't a bored, disinterested partner or friend. They were somebody they were bringing along, and something had sparked them. Maybe it was Strange New. Maybe it was Lower Decks. Maybe it was even Prodigy. I did my poll in the room, and we had more and more people, 4 or 5 for the JJ movies, 4 or 5 for all the more recent shows. Yeah. DS9 was still the one that turned. But in 420 people, we start to see the smatterings of all of those. But if nothing else, it got people back out. People watched Picard because of Next Gen. People are watching Strange New, enjoying Spock and Pike and Chapel and Uhura. And it's just a well-made show, the chemistry. You might have canon issues at times, and we talk about those, or wondering why they did this choice, not that one, but you cannot deny the cast has a lot of fun together and sparking off each other, which is essential for any Star Trek, and some we know it happens in more than others. So those are all good signs, much less these crazy animated shows and those crazy Lower Deckers. And I said it was we had the invasion of Toontown this week. So yes, is that a bold statement to make? Who won Comic-Con? It was Star Trek. Maybe there's a case to be made for others. Maybe no one won Star Trek. No one won Comic-Con. But if anybody did, if somebody stepped into the breach of 2023 and owned it, and even didn't realize how they were going to own it, I would say that's Star Trek. Did we have anybody in the chat that was there? Gonna sound off? I'm gonna step down from the soapbox here and let everybody jump in. I just want to make sure I got all of my, the meltdown, the cosplay up, the t-shirt wearing up, even the Barbie Treks. Oh, one last barometer. Our friends at Hero Within, Tony, the ones who are selling those incredible Picard bomber jackets, the leather jackets, and also the other Star Trek themed gear, they were doing cartwheels. Here's a topper on the cake for you. I talked to them on Friday evening. They sold, they're recent. This is their third. They had the year before pandemic and now this. And of course, the Picard popularity, those leather jackets are just, there's another licensee that has them too, but this was just out the roof. They were into the stratosphere with sales already. Tony told me when he wasn't giving Terry Metalis his own, not a good one, but one of the gray ones fixed up with patches. Quartermaster office right there. Check my Instagrams. No, Tony told me that their Thursday and Friday sales alone topped their whole last year's sales last year. And I don't know about you, but there's no better barometer for Star Trek at day's end than the almighty dollar. And that spoke volumes. So they were ahead of last year, but they did it in 2 days. What does that tell you? And the Thursday and Friday, not Saturday and Sunday, which was more icing on the cake, very thick icing. But the first 2 days of the con, they beat their sales from last year. And they sell only Star Trek wearables. Give them a look. And they also sponsored the Energize Lounge, the free coffee that I didn't collect on. If you saw people's posts from over there too. Anyway, this is why I say, who won Comic-Con? I'm going to say Star Trek, if anybody did. All right, what do you think? Jump in the chat. We're going to say, if you're with us, if you're watching later on YouTube, I'm going to end it here. You live folks, don't go away though. But I've got some folks to thank. Again, just to remind you, hang on, we will get to the chat. I will look at some Parent Analytics ratings here in a second, and I want to see what everybody's saying, what you're reacting. And yes, I know it's hard not to think about Vegas. It's around the corner. I have something to say about that in just a second too. But for right now, summer will be here for a few more weeks, and the fall is awesome too. And if you want, come to LA if you're not already, and do a Trekland Treks with me. It's customized away missions for you. I will work with you to set it up. We'll go to 4 sites in a day, have a fast food, hopefully very California fast food lunch. I'll pick you up at your hotel, take you back, help you wrangle any of your cosplay, your props, your stuffed animals, whatever it is. Help you with your photos, your video. Be happy to do it, okay? And of course, most of all, I got to thank our growing army here of our Patreons, our TTLers, our TTL club. Diana Hopkins, Lawrence Todd, Justin Porteous, Chris Jiggins. What am I doing? Comedy Forecast. I'm a comedy forecast. Robin Wilson, Anne-Marie Siegel, Galinda Bruton, Pranakasha Productions, and Andrew Jazimski. And our other tier, our TLL Live Wires, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Helbjörg Gunn Johnson, Alan Huenzi, Dave Gregory, Tobias Rex, Donna S. Runyon, and Casey Shefsky. Looking forward to seeing a bunch of these people at Vegas as well. If you want to help out, it's near the end of the month. You can still jump in for this month. It's just $5 and $10. Simple levels with a shout out. I need to crank out the new round of access to our Portal 47 early generation interviews. I don't mean when people were kids. I mean our backstagers in the first 3 or 4 years of Portal 47. We'll get that out pretty soon. It's crazy time right now, so bear with me. Patreon.com/Trekland Live if you want to help out. I keep it simple because if you're going to do that, you might as well just jump into the portal, portal47.net. But of course, it is Tuesday, and there is, as of today, a new Trek Files, as always, on Tuesdays most of the year. We are glad to welcome back the one, the only Jake Sisko, Sirach Lofton, and talk about, yes, casting and diversity in Star Trek. And we're pulling out some TNG 1989 memos from Gene's files in the Star Trek Next Gen office. You want to check that out. You can get the podcast anywhere, but if you want to see the documents and comment, you need to go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Trek Files. We'd be thrilled to have you aboard there and build that community. Otherwise, community-wise, I'm everywhere. Still on Twitter or X. Do I have to redo this now? Gag me. Larry Nimichung, whatever it is, whatever that thing is going to be. Same thing with Mastodon, same thing with Blue Sky as soon as I can. I thought I put in for my Blue Sky months ago, and apparently not. I had to redo it. Oh, well. And post, and you go down the line. What will come? I'll try to be there. I will be out there. Instagram is awesome these days, though, even though it's meta with Facebook. Facebook, we're still here, Larry's Trekland. If you really want to hang in there, like a lot on the chat here are, portal47.net. And hey, Portal 47ers, I haven't got the email out, but tomorrow night is guest night for the month. And our guest is going to be the great Mark Wade, who was there for the Digital Revolution Online, worked with actors, worked with the early day internet with a lot of firsts. I was thrilled to be there with him. The first generation of StarTrek.com. And yes, when it was Continuum. And yes, when it all started in the Paramount Digital Kitchen with the first movie website in history. Do you know what that is? I'll do it. I'll do trivia. I'll see if anybody knows what the first movie website in history was, because Mark worked on it. Anyway, that's what's going on for Portales. You got a sneak peek. Otherwise, everybody else, if you are leaving us now, hey, so glad to have you with us. Check us out. We're here. If you're watching later on YouTube, we're here at 1 p.m. Tuesdays, 4 Eastern, and around the world, 9 p.m. in the UK and 10 in Central Europe. Okay? Glad to have you with us. Sound off. For now, if I'm leaving you, just stay healthy. Do all the things. People were still masking at San Diego Comic-Con. There was a report of someone who was COVID positive walking around the floor, and the alert going. They had pictures. Not trying to dox or stalk them, just protect people. Fandom is generally so trusting and open and honest, and we did our bit for the pandemic, I would say, for the most part. And but there's still plenty of diseases hanging around out there. Just take care of yourself, and the sunscreen and the heat and all of that. Alrighty. Oh, and stay woke. Check your sources. Don't fall for any garbage. And if it seems bizarrely weird, it actually still might be true. I didn't know about the Texas race massacre until I was in my 30s, and I grew up in Oklahoma. So, in all cases, check the sources when you stay woke, hashtag. And Trek well, everybody. Okay. maybe a little more report there that we could deal with. Hi.
You're on with someone. Okay.
Yeah. It's been a long day because we recorded SO already and now we're doing live this. So thanks everybody for your patience. It's just yeah. Be careful what you wish for, lieutenants. You may get it. That may be my favorite line of all the movies. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Oh, real quick. I'm going to do a very quick yell at the parrots. And only to show back a couple of weeks ago, the parrot analytics, the controversial, contentious, but try to be complete as opposed to the Nielsen's, although the Nielsen's are making a go of it. The Nielsen's are certainly getting pointed to. That may be more because of their name than their actual content. Remind you of anybody else you know these days. But they are getting attention, and now Strange New has been twice in the top 10 Nielsen streamings. Haven't heard an update from the last couple of weeks. What I did want to share with you, though, was the recent Parrot Analytics surveying everything online for mentions, comment, buzz, retweets, all of that from fans, from studios, from critics. So what's happening here is they're on a roll. Strange New Worlds is in a peak. TV Geek, the site TV Geek, is apparently paying Parrot for the exclusives for their most recent numbers. So the Parrot Analytics site is behind 2 to 3 weeks now. So if you go to TV Geek, you will see that Strange New Worlds was averaging 13th in demand rank, and number set, like in the top 10s we'd normally see, they were number 7 in recent week. Their trend line is up 17%. This is in the US, not the world. I mean, the demand rank day by day did a huge spike. And it's been long enough, I think, for all of those old scientists hoopla to have registered. I mean, do you realize they released it early? They released it on Saturday, not Wednesday. Now the regular week ahead is going to be on Wednesday. And I mean, they've had 3 released in basically 8 days. Charades, and then those old scientists, and the Klingon ambassador one. With Subspace Rhapsody. It looks like a perfect old Paramount 50s style music poster for a musical. It's awesome. The way the graphics are amazing. I met the person who drew that poster, whose names are never attached because they're studio working artists. And hopefully in 10 or 20 years, we can celebrate all these people for the work. Just the same way that Albert Whitlock, the magnificent matte painter, was just doing his thing. And we did not know that he did Starbase 10 and Starbase 11 and the surface of Delta Vega, etc., etc. Nope, Strange New is doing very well. They're doing really well. Their average over the 30 days was 45 times more popular than the average show. Their peak was 50 times more average. That's landing them in Parrot's little category of outstanding, which is the upper, they've revised this. It's the upper 0.2% of all shows. So, yeah, they're safely within that margin. At the same time, I was curious to see what was happening with Lower Decks, if they were getting a bump yet. Not a whole lot. They're still down. It's an off, the main run of shows is not dropping new ones. So if they get a Strange New bump, if there's a Pike bump, if there's a Pike peak in their curve line, it may not show up for a while yet. And it's really not showing up here just the last few days itself. They're down, but their average demand is still 16.5 times more popular than an average show. And in the Parrot scope of things, that's still outstanding. That's still in the upper 2.7% of all shows, not 25% or 27%, 2.7. So of all the hundreds of titles out there, even Lower Decks is in the 2.7 of popularity. Do you get that? Okay. Where compared to Strange New being in the 0.2, it's amazing. They're all doing really well, way ahead of the rest of them. The lagging parrots for the 30-day trend, they're still in the exceptional. They're showing 43.3 times more with the spike of the premiere, and the trend line over 30 days, they're showing that you can look at 66% for all you Lady and the Tramp fans, which is amazing. So, not a lot of hardcore detail there. They re-emerged the first 2 or 3 weeks of their season. They were back up in the top 10, number 6 and number 7 on the Nielsen's. Sometimes problematic, but people love to point to them because they're Nielsen's. So very good news, I would say, for everybody. And of course, we're still hanging in there with Prodigy, just for the news here, is available on your Amazon, your iTunes for rents, those kinds of things. You can at least digitally watch. It's not disappeared from the ecosystem. And a volume 2 of the second half of season 1 is on its way coming. We'll talk about that later. The second 10 episodes, since the whole first season was not on the DVD because they were supposed to be 2 different seasons at the beginning, and it'll all come out eventually. But conceptually, it's now the first season of 20 episodes, 10 and 10 on your DVD Blu-rays. And they're coming. So let's not forget about Prodigy, hashtag Save Star Trek Prodigy. I'm hoping we'll hear about that. They're obviously finishing out the last of the season 2 for somebody. They didn't drop everything and walk away. Nickelodeon has a big stake in this, and Nickelodeon is not connected to Paramount Plus, except the most biggest of Viacom or Paramount Global ways. Now, let's look at the chat, gang. I'm curious to see what I stirred up. I'm curious to see what you all are sensing and feeling just from watching the coverage around the world and seeing what people are saying. That's why I still enjoy all this. Oh, Cairo. Am I saturating the media? Am I just getting too popular? Is that what's happening? Yeah, you might tell some of my creditors how popular I am. Larry talking over Larry. That's funny. Very good. Yes, good to see all the old scientists. Thank you, Christoph. Hey, Mario, a Trektacular Tuesday. Absolutely, absolutely. Can you really be down at San Diego Comic-Con? Well, I have seen people do it. When it helps when LA is above San Diego, geographically speaking. If you're northocentric, if you're nord-centric, I guess it is. If that's your cartographic view of the worlds. Oh, let's see. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, Glenn, but apparently so. You were. It's the soap opera every week. I know, everybody. It's not like I didn't give you a good chance by having a late start. Hey, Kyle. Good to see you. Why aren't you working on Second Opinion, Kyle? Let's see. The terms. They did accept the terms, yeah. The real creatives leading production are mostly willing to agree to the terms. The Wall Street people and the bean counters probably are not. That's a chunk of it, yes. Yes. Happy Harriman. We reach, brother. I get you, Sean. Yeah, Kit was a late sharer. Did we go here? Boom. Yes. Kit just shared my cocoon. I hadn't seen it till he had it in the slideshow. And then he had it. So now he's put it on his socials. And I tell you all, you know what I say? Follow the creatives, follow the writers and the creatives. He just shared the new canon approach to the Ferengi's alphabets, numbers, and the symbols for strips and slips and bars and all of that, and how it works together. And it was Jorg inspired, Mike designed, and Kit used. Can we say that? With all the best of everybody working at all their different levels. Okay, all the hellos. Woof. Yes, RIP to Tony Bennett. I finally got to see Tony Bennett live here in LA about 10, 12 years ago. May have been one of the last times he was doing solo shows without, duetting with somebody. Hi, Sylv Lightning. Yo, back at you. Is the Ready Room on P Plus actively? Maybe this is a GSA thing, Christoph. It's fairly easy to see. Oh, Mona, I know how you feel. But it's so much easier to feel involved now than it did 20 years when I was a kid. Oh my God. I had to read the columns in TV Guide and then maybe watch Entertainment Tonight. Oh Lord, I hope. Do you mean right now, gay, or do you mean overall? I hope not. A live review of those old scientists right now? We'll see. Oh no, I'm sorry if I'm out of sync, gang. I hope that clears up. Oh no, not this. Oh no, I'm getting the idea that we were out of sync. Yikes. All right, Anne. Well, I think you need more than that. Let's see. Hey, Muhammad. Everybody came by today. Yay. Yes, can't wait for Discovery Season 5. It's going to be a long wait, though. It'll be months and months and months. We've been so spoiled. Oh, boy. There you go. Time to make a stand. Everybody get your stuff together. You're right, Glenn. Oh my gosh, I left out James. Yes. Original series set tour and Ticonderoga are still licensed. That's true. No, I should not have left them out, especially as there's so few on the list. Let's see. It's really hot, guys. It's really hot. And when you've got the air conditioning covered off. I will say this about Discovery, and I will critique it, and I understand why it is the way it is. But every season has improved. Every season, the things that were hurting it out of the gate, they keep trying to fix and try to smooth and refine. And every season, I feel like, has been an advancement. And I've heard such great things about this last season. Even the big bad kind of thing has been rearranged. So it's not quite that same feel. In fact, it's a chase of kind of a classic Star Trek theme. So, oh boy, oh goodness, Sean, I'm so sorry. Way out of sync. Oh, I started fresh. I'm so sorry, gang. Looks like you guys are enjoying each other more than listening to me if I'm that bad out of sync. I did not know this. That's an interesting fact, Sean. Well, Mona, this is a thing, and I guess we'll talk about it that way. But I've heard people talk about musical Star Trek episodes for ages. And when Buffy did theirs in the 90s, I remember people saying, why can't we have a Star Trek musical? And wondering what show it would, DS9 was so gritty, grimy, and some saying, oh, Voyager would have made a good one. And, I just don't know if it was in the zeitgeist of being too radical at the time for Rick Berman to grab onto it. I don't know. But people have talked about having a musical Star Trek episode for ages. And there's been at least one musical license. There's the one now currently in New Jersey, but there was one 20 years ago in London that was a licensed musical. They had to submit to get approval and approve, artworks and concepts and content and things. I met one of the actors in it one time. I need to do something with that information at some point. Oh boy. There you go, Christoph. Don't judge a musical by its cover. Well, yes, Mohammed, absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, that's what I've been all about for the last 20 years. So, what I tried to bring to mainstream Trek journalism with The Communicator. But absolutely, everybody comes to the party. We had tons of people at that panel that had never heard from that aspect of fandom before. So, yay. And that's why I wanted to try to host it and bring it. Well, I will tell you how they had the script written. There's no rewriting on it, but there's no filming, but they're working on sets. They're working on the physical side. So, and I saw somebody talk about trying to have a start date in October. So if the strike is settled by October, they want to be able to plunge right in and get going, which is what happened in '88 with the writer's strike then. And they lost 4 slots of season 2 Next Gen, but they were able to plunge right in and start up because people had been prepping and they had scripts ready to go. And some of the other departments had been working on having all the support, the sets and wardrobe and all that ready to go the minute they jumped in, or being light on it. But that's how. Yeah, well, Once Upon a Time musical, that was in their DNA just about, and the Buffy, yeah, the Once More with Feeling. Oh, I forgot that there was an Ally McBeal musical. Yeah. Yes, and Futurama. Well, oh yeah, oh of course, Mom. I'm not arguing against human nature. I'm just saying, how do we go against human nature? Because you're seeing their faces. They're literally the face of the franchise, of the show. But time brings us more to that. Witness the Akutas, witness Rick Sternbach and Doug Drexler. For starters, just for starters. Mm-hmm. Scott, musicals are one of your big 3 passions. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. More critical than average. Uh-huh. Everybody remembering some of those. Yeah. Intense and Porpoises. Oh, wow. The musical Buffy was your first Buffy. I can see that. Oh, Cairo, you're very welcome. Yes, everybody. I still haven't seen how it came out. I haven't had time. It wound up being, I think, 26 minutes, but we went all around the factory entertainment booth for the Star Trek with their creative director. So I had it from the top, and yeah, hopefully they're there. Some of the licensed folks aren't in Vegas, but we'll check. Intends spaces over tabs. Okay, that looked like a thing. The sous chefs of visual effects. I'd never heard that, Dave. In the old days, we just had the producers, the supervisors, and the coordinators. Yep. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Once upon a time, just like Stargate was a product of its time, you doubt that could happen again? Really? I never watched it, but I don't know why that wouldn't happen. Let's see. You respect, Sean, how hard it was to cosplay back in the day. The amount of cheap, high quality cosplay stuff coming out from the likes of Cozy Mart makes it so easy now. No knitting patterns or sewing kit. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. Yes. Yes. And science advisors, absolutely. And science advisors have been a thing with Star Trek, as we've, started with Harvey P. Lynn at Rand and Gene's initial thoughts and things we have to thank him for. We had phasers, not lasers. And the times when that was veered away from, and you could tell, or when the science advisors got a little less play than they do. After Discovery, nobody who would have shown too soon visual effects or non-disclosed content. Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes there's always a new generation of people making the decisions. So you would think a lesson learned might have a whole different cast of characters involved. So it really isn't a lesson learned. The memory well goes away. And yes, fan panels are awesome. There was a fan panel I wanted to see about how to introduce to fandom. There you go. There you go. Some Seventh Rule love. Seeing the Seventh Rule panel again. Yeah. Oh, boy. Grassroots fandom. That's what I like. Well, there you go. That's true. I would just call bad grassroots fandom as the troll farm or the troll army or whatever. Wait, what? You don't watch at me, you watch 3 comment streams and only listen to Larry. Oh, I think that's a compliment, Christoph. Thank you. Mm-mm-mm. I think lots of people. Well, I mean, I have been signing books for years, Muhammad. That was mainly about Liz and Kit going, who wants us? And Liz should have known better. She's been out in fandom. Kit was totally the live experience was totally thrown, and we didn't record the panel. It just the mob of things. I got Robert, Bob Butler, got Robert Butler, the director of The Cage, recorded in 2019, but I didn't try here. It's hard when you're so visually dependent. It's like, do you keep this when you're doing a live thing? It's like a Zoom meeting that you wish you could have camera on the speakers and camera on the screen, and then you can edit it in and out. And we weren't set up to have a hugely complex thing. Oh no, Becca, you're still not well. Oh, that's been a week and you're still down. I'm so sorry to hear that, Becca. Get well somehow, even with all the insane noise there. Christoph, I signed your stellar cartography when they could still afford to have had me over. Yeah. Oh boy, gang. I don't know how we're going to be able to fix this then later on. We'll see. We will see. Oh, thank you, May. Just take it easy. By this year, I might fall over easy. It's been kind of an incredible last month. Wait, what? When the Trekkie girls wanted one, all 10 he brought were sold. Yes, that was the weekend you joined Portal 47, Christoph. That was an awesome weekend. It was. Well, Muhammad, I have your signature in your book, and it's right. It's over there. It's on my grandma's little square table. This is a little weird, Rebecca, but I think I know what you mean. Yes, we had 2 new members sign up over Comic-Con, which never happens. Happens rarely. Okay. Looking for actual questions, gang. Oh boy. Sounds like I'm really going to be out of sync today. Sorry. I don't know if it's the heat or what's going on. Don't know what's going on. But I'm looking at questions. Barbie Trek is interesting, especially if you remember that there was a Barbie and Ken set wearing Starfleet. Yes. Oh, yeah. There was cross licensing pollination with Barbie and Ken in the aughts during the almost desert times. There was more Barbie and Ken Star Trek than there was Star Trek. Oh, Narda, thank you so much. I think you've been our single business. It's not really a big accounting thing, but just from what I know, I bet you are the biggest customer to our T Public shop. So thank you for that. I don't know how many people in the Outback have any clue what it is you're wearing, but I'm glad you enjoy them. Actual question, Zahir, thank you. Is there a connection of any kind? Huh? Between the end of Lost in Translation and the last season of DS9, no spoilers. The end of Lost in Translation is, oh God, what was the last of Lost in Translation? And the last season of DS9. I'm trying to remember. It's been. I watched Lost in Translation, recorded a second opinion, finished packing, got up the next day, didn't look at my screeners for the next two, and went off. Lost in Translation. You'll have to help me out in a minute. Yeah, you want the numero uno join Starfleet poster. That was the other one they had too. Yeah. Yes. And I will second this. Yay for Helen. The costume was awesome. And she was slaving over it right up until showtime. Yes, Helen Collins. Let's give her some more credit. Oh, hey, you were there. San Diego Eric Monty. Now I'm looking. Did we meet? Do we know each other? It was awesome. Really great moderator. And the two artists are really good. Well, thank you. You know what? If you really think this, could you please tell Convention World that I'm a great moderator, because I don't really have an agent to go out and sling for me. And I get tired of doing a don't you I don't say don't you know who I am. It's like, don't you know what I can do? I need to run these like on network commercials or something. I don't know. But thank you for that. That's all. I just try to make it fun and show them in a good light and make it connect the bridge between the fans and the creatives so that everybody gets the most out of it. Well, I meant 70s level of Star Trek love, Mona. I didn't mean all the baggage with the 70s, because every decade has its baggage. There is no perfect past time. We're certainly not in a perfect present time, so why should the past be any different? I meant the levels of Star Trek love when I say that. You had a poster of Will from the Teeny Bopper mags. That's awesome. Hey, Dr. Dave is in the house too. Even with the strike, there's so much to talk about and do. Have 2 space science panels Friday, Saturday. Thank you. Thank you for bopping in, Dr. Dave. I look forward to seeing you guys too. It'll be a different kind of year. We'll just see what happens. I feel like after the last 2 or 3 years, we're used to weird years anyway. This is what I mean, Sean. A lot of fans are going back to watch Lower Decks because of the new app, and they wish they had done it with Prodigy. You wish they'd done it with Prodigy. Well, they may wish to. But do not count Prodigy out. Prodigy is not down for the count yet. Not that it's a contest. Where am I? Halfway through. Guys, I am so sorry about the sync today. We've been so good here for a couple of years now. I don't know what's going on. I do not know what's going on. Maybe when it gets to be hot temperatures, I just have to restart right before we start. Maybe. I don't know. This would be a thing, Cairo. I wonder. I wonder if something could be arranged. Sean, no, I have not seen this one. Decay crashes into sconces. Wait a minute. Touche, Cairo, touche. Carves the turducken. And there's a report from the lines, so yay. Okay. I wonder, somebody may say this, you guys are on Facebook and watching the stream. I'm wondering if it's out of sync on YouTube. We'll see. We will see. Actually, Mona, Michelle Hurd came out and said, for right now, don't cancel your streaming, but that they may suggest that. They may ask their fans to do that later, but for right now, don't. There you go. Yes, at this point. And again, that was, you got Michelle Hurd quoted that. Thank goodness for Michelle Hurd. She's taken Armin's place there on the, as far as us, Trek having an insider on the negotiating committee. Yes, indeed. Let's see. Yeah, because the writers' strike, they're topical. They write every day, as opposed to writing long term that's not topical. You know, their whole bread and butter in Saturday Night Live, they're all about what's going on right now. So there's no point to them. There's nothing they can do right now. And when they come back, there'll be nothing they can do. They just lost these weeks. And there you go. Thanks for the backup, or the pre-backup, Gay. There we go. Yeah. The writers have been out for 2 months before the actors got all the attention. Well, they got attention at the beginning, but I think they started to lag a little bit. I will cheer Sirach Lofton all day long, right along with you, Mohammed. Yes, absolutely. And he wanted to come on. He said, "Can I come on?" And it was like, well, who's going to tell Sirach no? Absolutely. I know, X, formerly known as Twitter. Don't get me started. No one knows what the X is. Sir Rook, Surak, or Sonak. Yeah, I'm just lucky to have Trek and not Track on mine, or Truck on my closed captions. Let's see. Yes, Michelle Hurd is a VP of the SAG LA chapter office. Mm-hmm. Hey, Mike! Mike, I can't wait to see what you're able to do with the Orville panel. We're going to learn all about that cast that we don't know as well as Star Trek people. Maybe, Mike, huh? Everybody, Mike Richards, host of the Mission Log Orville podcast, along with Jessica Linverdi. Jessica Linverdi, the femme fatale voice of the Trek Files every week. Yeah, well, they're pretty much not in effect for anybody. So, yeah. Don't yell at the birds. We've already lost one bird this week. True. Patrick McNee sounds a lot. Well, I've got convoys here. I'm fine. It's just I talked for 4 straight days, and I've been talking since. I've talked all day today to you all and others. The Nielsen ratings. I've never trusted them. Yeah, they didn't divert. They weren't into niches. Absolutely. Or measuring what people in niches would spend versus big, broad audiences. So YouTube is this is sounding like it's a restream thing then. Okay, we will see what's going on. Maybe there was an update that I didn't catch. So sorry again, folks. So sorry for the thing today. If it at least is if it's at least standard. If it's not coming and going, but we can just offset and move them together, that'll be better. That's all we need though right now is we're all bonkers. Just looking for questions, guys. Yeah. Oh, the Prodigy discs are not announced for outside the US yet. And the Prodigy DVD releases for Europe are announced for later this year. Okay. Okay. Actual question, May. How do I feel about the Inglorious Treksperts Kickstarter on touring Star Trek locations? I was shocked. Isn't this your niche? You're the expert. Are they consulting with you? Well, it's a free country, May, and nobody's said anything to me about it yet. Mark's got his guys and his team, and if they do a documentary, that's fine, but that doesn't replace people going on their own and having the experience. So no, I hadn't thought about doing a documentary on it. There were years back when I thought about having a guidebook. So, it's hard to lug around a documentary in your thing. So no, it was interesting. We'll see what happens. But I want them to do well. Want everybody connected with Star Trek to do well. And it threw me for a second, but I thought, you know what? That's cool. If nothing else, it can be one big, huge commercial. Did you see Mark and Scott's great new thing about now you can do it yourself? So yeah, it'll be one great 90-minute commercial for Trekland Treks and Geek Nation tours. And I don't think they're going to visit all 50. If they just hit the top ones, they're not going to hit all 50 plus that there are. Some of the obscure ones will still be out there for people to be obscure with. Yeah. X rating. All right. Well, Trek well. Let's see. Oh, okay. Prodigy will have discs in Europe. Absolutely. Okay. X's and X's and X's. Sure, Sean. If I ever have time to read The Writer's Tale back and forth by email, talking about the writing of 2 series of Doctor Who. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Hi, Troy. And gosh, Troy, who doesn't love the season? No, I see people who aren't. They're not quite as happy with Strange New, and they have reasons, real people reasons. I don't mean rando bot reasons. Really? Ready Room is still not available in P Plus in the UK and Ireland. Still no Lower Decks, and now no Prodigy. They actually do. The Hagemans and Aaron and everybody in that cast, I know they love everybody around the world. They do. It's their whatevers. YouTube is still out of sync. Well, if you can make one clean rejig. That's always helpful. It's just we didn't need more post time this week. We didn't need something to be a bigger hassle. Oh, I just want to know why. I just want to know why and not to replicate it. Okay. There you go. Complete season 1 coming to Europe. Part 2. Yes, Glenn. Anne Marie's comment reminded you it's about time to order some real sugar Dr. Pepper. So you have Captain Morgan's and Dr. Pepper. Okay. I see no spiced rum for me, just silver plain. 11 likes. 17 people push that like button. It helps us go. Thank you, Sean. Yeah. Well, it's not dislike, it's just off the radar, which I thought was 20 years ago thinking. I thought when they realized the global market had so much moolah to give, I thought that put you on the radar. I know the movies are. See, I think movie world pushes the global market more than they do their domestic. I think the American audience is left behind when they put movies together, but it's still flipped for TV. And maybe some of that is about the translation and cultural oddities that they have to navigate. Yeah. Yes, Rebecca. They were thinking they had 6 at least. All right. What Paramount exec? One Paramount exec, Brian, was talking about having a Prodigy movie, and he was in the movie division as well. So this is why I'm saying, hang on to your hats. And does the left arm, the left hand, and the right hand of Paramount all know what it's doing? And Paramount Plus is not the entirety of the corporation. Just to remember. Well, this often happens, Narda, even in the Outback. I'm betting they had somebody do the choreography from Toronto, but who knows? I think Gates also might have said something by now. And good on John. The 800-pound rock talk in the room. Very good. This won't be the end of Dow Gwynn Rock Talk Zero, and especially Murph. He's indestructible. Yeah. Well, we've got all that merchandise. I can still hear Cadet Alice saying merchandise. There you go. There's a vote for Mohammed on Shuttlepod Show coming in to guest. Yeah. I remember that too, because it was weird because I remember the first time I saw him I was at the con where that happened for the first time. A Skype call on a screen. It was so radically different. It was in Orlando. Yes. Well, who knows that maybe they'll include temporal operations. I'm just thinking it may, if it's a Mission Impossible type thing with some original, with some humor, we'll see. Or even have like tones of X-Files, we'll see. Mike, can't forget the One West Waikiki musical. Okay. I'll do as you ask and not forget it, but then I had to have known it first before I could forget it. Happy 6th anniversary to Star Trek STLV 2017. Okay, 2017. We were early that year. Very true, Sean. Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, which was the strike replacement for 0708. An actual. What was my first musical? Yours was The Court Jester, if you could call it a musical. I know the first musical movie I ever saw was The Sound of Music. Little bitty kid. And you mean musical on stage to see? Wow. I do not know. Or just sing a musical on TV? Oh, lordy. The first musical I saw on stage. Probably in high school. Maybe. What did we see on the tour? I'm trying to think. Oh, I can't think. I saw something on a high school tour of New York and Washington and DC. We saw a drama and we saw a musical in New York City, and you can tell it made a huge impact on me. Oh my goodness. It's not called Mexican Dr. Pepper, is it? With like it is Coke or real sugar Coke. There's real sugar Pepsi now too. This is true. This is DNA, and also the way we talked about computers. I love hearing Spock talk about computer banks in TOS. Yeah. Well, Christophus explains it all. Okay. If I could get a Nennebec model, it was just built from straight-sided Strathmore board. Yeah, I should get a Nennebec model. I have pictures of it. I have some when it was on auction. I got some. They let me hold it and have fun with it. I have several pictures of all front, back, and sides of the Nennebec. Duranta, I think we can work this out. You just get me over there, okay? Knock down Dirk's door again, or Jason's, or somebody. I have that effect on people, Becca. So good night. Get better, girl. Yeah, I think we're getting down to the end. Hey, Melanie, Barbie Trek. Yes, absolutely. Oh, Mike, you want me to give away trade secrets? How would I structure a cast member panel when you can't talk about the show? Well, I would, without being on the nose about it, I would ask them about their childhood and life and training, and without that sounding like, grandma on vacation at the Grand Canyon slideshow, ask them about what things from their childhood have informed their acting, including the thing that they're kind of famous for now, meaning the Orville, without saying the word. I don't know, are you verboten from saying the Orville like it exists? I would just, I would also, one thing I thought of was just have them tell stories on each other that aren't show specific, whether it's the Orville or something else. Just have them tell if they had interactions with either castmates from here or other places where people would know the person, or if the story was just great. Practical jokes are the go-to thing, but you can still tell funny stories that had, they're not inherently a practical joke, but they're still fun, interesting, funny, or revealing. Or something with empathy, family-wise, or friends. Because that's, if you've got a lot on your panel, be grateful that you've got, 6 or 7 or 8 people, maybe. That's my first thing I thought about, was tell the jokes without referencing the show or the episode, whether it's from that show or it's something else they've worked on. Just make it people-oriented. and let them talk about the craft and what they've enjoyed doing in the past, hopefully. How is the build up to STLV looking? Hey, Robert. Crazed, late and delayed as usual, hot. Is Darren James in Lost in Translation? Was Jimmy Darren? Was Vic? Vic, there was a Vic reference, right? That's been so many blurry days ago now. Oh, the song. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I referenced this. It was jazzy. I couldn't recognize what it was, and I'm pretty good on standards and jazz, but I didn't recognize what it was, and they didn't put the song credit in the end credits, which I thought they were supposed to be, which makes me wonder if it was generically written by the composers, which is, if I was in a level playing field, I would have got on Twitter, Instagram, and asked them if that was original tune or if that was. I didn't recognize it right off, and I'm pretty good with that era. Oh, thank you, Narda. Well, I think most all of them are ones that Scott has done. Some of them are older, and my friend Kevin did. Of course, Aaron Harvey did the Trek Files logo. Well, good. Good to know you're not totally isolated then that way. Okay. Yeah, Mona, you're not up to what Zahir was talking about yet. You'll get there in the last 2 or 3 years. Well, it's recorded through Restream, and it's also going live to YouTube. So I have 2 different recordings. We'll see which one is in better. Thank you, Duralta. But if we want to have this for the YouTube archiving later on, the world at large will be persnickety, and it will be seen as obviously an amateurish production if we have things out of whack. Yep. What? Prodigy's like New Coke. It's all a ploy to drive up demand. I don't think so, Sean. Oh, hey. Thank you, Guitar, for letting me know, too. And good to see you, Guitar Journey. Oh, boy. There you go, Mike. Necessity is the mother of invention or something. Yes, Citrus Lofton rocks. Absolutely. Fran Drescher is the president of SAG. Yes. I think they have regional vice presidents. Now, what? Connor says he can't direct because not being Canadian and union rules. Is the Trek Director Academy dead because it's in Toronto? Well, I think they have a quota, and if they have Jonathan direct, that's one American, and that may be they've only got 9 slots, and they may have 1 or 2 people direct twice in a year. I think maybe they save the non-Canadian slot, the non-native slot for Jonathan. Good luck charm. I think that's what that might be referring to. Yeah. Oh, on Stargate. Yeah, there you go. Narda, we don't want you to die nor your batteries, so take care out there. We'll see you next time. Oh, Chris, it's okay. It'll be posted soon. Have an old school Godzilla movie going on. It's that bad, huh, LT? Okay. To make it easier to see. Yeah, see, but I didn't know I wasn't in sync until everybody started reporting it. But I also believe in peanut butter. They'll love me if I do this now at whatever time. Um, do you know how long ago the Fact Files was, Sean? Do you know how many iterations of people in licensing and marketing that was? At least 4.7 generations. I know, Cairo. I appreciate you in there slugging whatever you can do. Okay. Looking for the end of the chat. Your first musical was Singing in the Rain on TV. There you go. The STLV was their first one. Did you come to your tour? Was your Geek Nation tour was 2014's Cairo? I think your second year at STLV. No, I did not see Starlight Express in Bochum, but I was in Bochum twice. You just now wait a minute, analysis. You just waltz in here and ask people what they thought of this major episode at the end of the stream. You just waltz in here and think you're gonna just no, I'm kidding. I think they'll all say they loved it. Some people it wasn't their cup of tea, but I haven't heard anybody run screaming from the room. Let's see. This is very true. I actually meant to compare it to if you think of it as a crossover, it's a little Trials and Tribulations was a bit of a crossover. It's just that they weren't current, they weren't contemporaries. Lower Decks and Strange New are contemporaries. Oh, thank goodness, Duralta. There we go. Yay, it's the end of the chat. I'm not going to get off on crossover and anime, guys. Yeah, well, Jimmy Darren, yes, Moondoggy in the Gidget movies, and then he directed, but he was also in Time Tunnel, and then he was Shatner's senior police cop officer in T.J. Hooker, and then he directed to keep income coming in because he wasn't a young kid anymore, and then he got back to his singing, and his Vic Fontaine got him back on the concert tour. Okie dokie. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Sirach was showing his jeans there in Holosuite on DS9. Thank you, Glenn. Well, I don't think they're weird. I totally get it. Otherwise, you're suffocated by the neighboring culture that is everything American. I totally get the Canadians insisting about using their people. Yes. Well, glad it was a ton of fun, Dave, even if we were a little bit out of sync. Oh, you were in the 2016 that late. Okay. Okay. If I go back and look at the pictures and stop and think about it, I can figure it out. Cairo. Bochum near killed him. Best crossover since these are the voyages. Do you really want to go there? But yes. Well, Christoph, it wasn't for wiving wealthily in Padua. Ha ha. Okay. Hey, Steve. Hello, Steve. Yes, they did it all for you. It was all for you. That's what my friend Lee would say. But I'm glad it's working out. That's fine. Let's see. Hey, everybody, we will see you in STLV. I'll see my portals, my portales in STLV. I'll see everybody, whoever we can do. Yes. One of those two characters, I don't remember the names. Oh, Rocky, we are ending the chat, but are you kidding me? Of course there will be. Of course, they put out soundtracks all the time of the instrumental tracks. You don't think there won't be one? Of course. And everybody who wrote lyrics and song music, I'm hoping they get a little extra enrichment in their pocket, and they will. Gang, that's going to do it for us. I'll call the end of the chat there. Woof. Here's the announcement. Thank you all so much for coming. Once again, thanks to all of our TTLers. You can too. You can go over and jump in and help support everything here over at Facebook. Patreon, patreon.com/Trekland Live. Love to have you jump in on this. You can do more than this. You can add on if you want to, but I kept it simple for more people to be in there. Everybody, yes, Sirach is our guy this week. He's our guest on the Trek Files. You want to catch it? It's about, diversity in the crews and the casting. Very true. Again, if you can make it by LA any time of year, I'm just thinking summer. It'll be hot in the summer. But, fall is great too. You've got time to plan. TreklandTreks.com, or just show up at my regular site, LarryNemechek.com. Hey, the TeePublic store still has sales twice a week. You can get all that information if you just check out my site at LarryNemechek.com. Otherwise, on all the socials, whatever the heck is going on with Twitter, LarryNemechek.com or Larry Nemechek at. Larry Nemechek's Trekland is YouTube. Please like and subscribe and share and do all the things. Facebook as well as Instagram too, which is getting to be very fun. And Portal47.net. If you're worried about the post-con blues, Portal 47 is your way to avoid that all year long. And everybody, I think that will do us. Thank you so much for being here. The announcement is no Trekland Tuesdays live next week. Not on Monday, not on Wednesday. We'll be Vegas bound on Wednesday. We'll be doing second opinions to get out the door for this compressed schedule. It will be crazy time. We'll probably still be late tinkering of schedules. So we're going to take a week. Now, if there is something worth jumping in for, here's where you want to be subscribed. Okay, on Facebook maybe, but at least on YouTube. If there's some live breaking news that I need to jump in and talk about, I will do that. Much the way that Cadet Alice and I jumped in to talk about the Prodigy world when the cancellation and erasure came down. Other than that, I will see you back here in 2 weeks. Okay? 2 weeks on August 8th. Right? We'll be 2 days away from the penultimate Strange New Worlds by then. 2 days away from the musical. And we'll see you back on August 8th. If something breaks in Trekland, I will be back on and let you know. Probably not with a chat, but just a message. Okay? So we're never very far away. Trek Files will keep rolling. Second Opinion will keep rolling. Oh my God, if it kills us with this crazy 3 episodes in 1 week schedule. I am so grateful to see everybody, have your support. Don't forget on YouTube also, I should have done this earlier. On YouTube also, you can click in and give us a tip, give us YouTube cash. I forget the words for it. I should really learn that. Appreciate all the support, everybody. It's good to see you and representing Trek all around the world. We'll see some of you in Vegas. I'll see some of you on the Portal 47 cast tomorrow night. Hopefully see a lot of you back here in 2 weeks, all right? Trek well, everybody.